Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. Lone Wolf Paintball is an online supplier that has been around for a very long time. They've actually been Michigan's premier paintball field and supplier since 1987. Now expanding into the online retail store, they are really trying to do their best to supply everything you need to the paintball community. They have it all. You can head over to lonewolfpaintball.com. If you want Field 1, HK, GI, Dye, it doesn't matter. They got it. You can surf the website. You can check it out. They have what you need, guaranteed. And they also boast excellent customer service and same-day shipping. That's pretty badass. You could go to the website, order something, and it's going to be sent out that day. That's fantastic. That's amazing customer service. So again, guys, if you would like, you could head over to lonewolfpaintball.com. You could also check them out on YouTube and Instagram. Their Instagram is Lone Wolf PB, and their YouTube is Lone Wolf Paintball. And you can see and keep up to date with all their latest deals, their sales, their content. It's a lot of really fun stuff. Play the Game Podcast is excited to have them on board, and you guys should head over and become part of the community. All right. We are brought to you by Heal Brand. Heal Brand is the best CBD company that we have ever come across. I've been taking CBD products for years now, and I absolutely love it. But Heal Brand has taken my CBD consumption level to the next tier. This stuff is really the luxurious, high-quality, best brand that you're going to come across. Their whole claim to fame is the nanotechnology. It's the real deal. The claim is that through their nanotechnology, the CBD can actually break through the cellular wall and get into the bloodstream much faster and more efficiently. So you need less to do more. Often CBD products, you'll need to take it for a couple weeks before you really start noticing all of the benefits. With this stuff, as soon as you take it, you notice it right away. Within 15, 20 minutes, you're feeling the benefits of CBD. CBD is great for inflammation, anxiety, sleeping, all sorts of different stuff. CBD is really exploding on the scene because it has such a wide variety of benefits. I personally love to use CBD before I go to bed so I can get a full, well-rested night of sleep. Sleep is so crucial. It's so important. If you want to recover well, if you want to fight off depression and anxiety and those unwanted emotions, proper sleep is where you need to start. CBD products really help me do that, and Heal Brand CBD has a wide variety of options of different products, different formulas. It is all natural. It's amazing. This stuff is fantastic. You guys can head over to healbrand.com, check them out, and there is an exclusive offer to all of our PTG listeners. If you use code PLAYTHEGAME at checkout, you'll get 10% off. This episode is brought to you by G2 Paintball. G2 Paintball is back, and you guys should be incredibly excited. If you are in the area, in Arizona or anywhere on the West Coast, you want to make sure you do not miss this. Being in paintball shape is one of the most important things to being a top-level player. Not just a top-level pro, but a top-level player in any division. If you are trying to win tournaments, you want to be in the best physical condition possible. Paintball is so physically demanding. It requires so much of your physical ability, and G2 Paintball is designed to help you maximize that potential both on and off the field. G2 Paintball played a huge role in our World Cup win. It pays dividends to get out there and do these exercises, do these kinds of training. It is so difficult. It is very tough, but it is going to put you in position to win events, and that's what we're here to do. I teach this at all of my clinics. I always preach the importance of physical fitness in paintball ability. You can get all the way to the finals, but if you are only at 60% and a less talented, less skilled, less experienced team is at 90 or 100%, they are likely going to beat you. Do not let your physical ability be the reason you guys are not winning events. Get signed up for G2. If you guys are in the area, make sure you get active, get involved. It is owned and operated by Victor Gamboa and Rusty Glaze. You have players like Tyler Harmon, myself, Ryan Greenspan, all part of the entire G2 program. You guys can stay up to date with everything at g2paintball.com, and we hope to see you at an event very soon. This episode is brought to you by Transfuse. Transfuse is the only all-natural electrolyte drink that you guys need to have in your cabinets. We love this stuff. We've been using this for an entire season now. This stuff is amazing. I feel great when I drink Transfuse. I drink it every single day. I don't go a day without putting a packet of Transfuse in my water. It's very easy, very portable, easy to travel with, and delicious to drink, which means that you're going to love drinking it and you're going to drink more of it, which is going to be incredibly beneficial to your health. Has magnesium, potassium, sodium, which are all amazing for proper hydration. It has zinc, vitamin C, vitamin B, and choline. These things are incredible cognitive enhancers and immune boosting formulas that you don't want to miss out on, especially in times like this. I'm telling you, I drink Transfuse every single day. I love it. Tyler does as well. Anybody who has tried it has been just pouring with great feedback back to us. There's a reason that they're at all the NXL events and a lot of the top teams and top professionals are using this product. Do not walk around dehydrated. I never realized how dehydrated I was, even when I was drinking all sorts of water. It's not enough. You need the proper nutrition. You need the right ingredients. Transfuse has done a great job of curating the perfect formula. Transfuse is absolutely spectacular, and for all of our listeners, there is a special deal for any Play the Game listener. If you head over to translabs.com, that's TRANZLABS.com, and use code PLAYTHEGAME at checkout, you will get 10% off. If you subscribe, which means they auto ship you your package every single month, whatever you want, whatever type, whatever flavor, whatever electrolyte formula you desire, they will give you an additional 11% off. So it becomes a 21% discount exclusively for all Play the Game listeners. Huge shout out, and we are incredibly thankful for our supporters. And if you guys would like to go support them, it's translabs.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME. Hello, PTG listeners. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. This is episode 102. We have the president of the NXL, Tom Cole, the one and only, the man, the myth, the one that everybody would love to hear from. We got him on the show and we got to sit down and talk about some awesome concepts and ideas and things to move the NXL forward. And we dove into some really tough questions and addressed, a lot of different players' concerns and some of the chatter going on online and all of that good stuff. Tom is an amazing ambassador of the sport, and he has done so much for the game of paintball. So anytime we get to sit down and chat with him and see his perspective and understand his goals and aspirations and ideas of the game, it's a good time and a good show. So without further ado, we're going to hop in there.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication. And the crowd starts chanting Harmon. Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game. He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
All right, everybody. Episode 102. We had to have the man, Tom Cole, president of the NXL, on the show. Figured it'd be very fitting after episode 100. Tom is the man. How you doing, brother?
Good. I appreciate you guys having me.
Of course.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, man. Anytime that we can have you on the show, it's an honor. Absolutely.
Anytime. I love it.
Yeah, indeed. Dude. I mean, we could have started this show about 20 minutes ago. We've been shooting the shit in the green room and just having a good conversation. Yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk.
Paintball talk.
That's it. And that's what it's all about. It's all love for paintball. And that's why all 3 of us are sitting here and, we're all doing our damnedest to make sure that this thing carries on forward with power into the future. That's our goal.
Yep. It's everybody's goal, hopefully.
That's it. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
It needs to be, yeah. And, for the sport of paintball, we need people working together. That's something we obviously preach here on the show all the time. The community needs to do a better job of coming together and supporting each other. I think that's something that, Alex Fragi and Oliver with Hormesis, they've done an amazing job bridging the gap between different companies and players. And I think that whole message is something that we all just need to continue to push. It is the message. It's the way forward. And it's the only way we if we can come together and help push this thing forward, we're going to be in a better spot than if we don't do that and try to tear each other down,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Tom, what do you got back there? You got a pretty cool background you're sitting in front of.
That's my Atlantic City backdrop. That's one of my favorite backdrops for Zoom meetings. I do a lot of meetings with cities and stuff, trying to bring the events in or talk about what we do, and it's pretty much a showstopper, right? When you put that up there, people are like, wow, we had no idea it was that big.
That was one of my favorite events that the NXL ever threw. I loved going to Atlantic City. I get to throw a couple of dollars in the machine and then, go and play some ball.
It's a shame. It was probably the most polarizing event we've done other than like Farmville in Philly, which was some people hated it, right? There was people that were like, we got the most amount of like legitimate like complaints, like in emails from any event we've ever done.
Dang.
Yeah. And it was
same with Philly, I'd imagine.
Around safety and just the environment of Atlantic City. But I do believe they've actually tried really hard to get us to come back out there and take a look at it. Yeah. Because they've built some new casinos, and a lot of that was in the process when we were there. So they act like it's been upgraded quite a bit since the last time we were there.
Yeah, and we'd love to go there.
Yeah, we've looked at it again and again to maybe go back. So
Yeah. And even like Philly, like people were griping about that, but I've played so much paintball, and that was like it was like dust, you know. It wasn't really like, it's not like you're diving in cement. Try playing in Modesto in the early 2000s on that cement, and then,
It's funny.
you,
It's like
yeah.
obviously it wasn't ideal, right? But it is
Yeah.
funny that in order to defend me or to defend the league, people always bring up other locations that are worse, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that's if either
That's
of us
not the
want
best
that,
argument, right?
Yeah, yeah.
right?
That's true.
In Rennick, like in the middle of this whole
That's true.
thread of me just getting destroyed, right? Then someone's like, well, it's not as bad as Badlands. And then there was
Yeah.
an entire thread about that. And I was like, I called Rennick in the middle of it. I was like, well, I drug you into our pain. Someone's always got to brag up, one of their
Yeah.
worst events ever, and it was better than that. So
It wasn't bad though. Like, I actually liked it that I could see the little dust cloud. I kind of knew where people were. I was like, okay, I see your little dust cloud moving there.
the pictures were pretty epic.
They
Yes,
were.
they were. All the photos from the event are, I still see photos pop up and I'm like, they look really badass. Those are cool
They do
shots.
look really good. Yeah.
Talk about, like, for people that maybe don't know the sport, they see those photos and they're really epic action shots. That's good for the sport in a way.
Yeah.
I think the issue was initially the photos that were leaked before the event looked way worse than it actually was, right? And so it looked like it was uneven and there were divots, but that wasn't the case. It was just dusty, which wasn't that bad. I mean, we all grew
It's
up
also
playing.
the way we planted it, right? They planted it like farm crops.
Right.
It took me forever to understand why I got all the farm things or whatever.
I was gonna say, did you see all the farm memes? Dude, Farmer Tom is a hit.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Yeah.
I got your Halloween costume
I'm
set up.
everywhere.
You
I
need to
gotta
do
give a
that.
shout out. I don't even know who posted it, but I actually went in because I didn't respond during that whole thing because that was just asking for trouble. But
Yeah.
some kid made a post and he said, "What Tom Cole is saying is you need to bring your hose." And so I private messaged him and I said that was probably the best one on there. And he was like, "I'm surprised you messaged me." And I was like, "That was hilarious. I can't."
It was worth it.
What was I gonna say?
Yeah, Tom, you go through the comments too much. I think because you're a good person. You
Try
care. You
not to
really
read
do.
them.
I know. I
That
always
whole
tell you.
weekend, I didn't read them, right? Because I knew I'd just be in a bad mood and that would come across bad at the event. But luckily, my friends will keep sending them to me, screenshotting them, sending me. Like, I don't know how the internet works, right? Like,
Yeah.
if I wanted to read this shit, I would go find it myself. But instead, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what friends are for, you know?
Yeah. But
That's
and I will give you one of my favorite ones. And it was, so this one guy was like really, in my opinion, a little harsh, right? He's very personal about it. And so I clicked on his Facebook page to see what his previous stuff was. And his entire page was about like never say anything mean to somebody because you don't know where they're at in their life and their day. And there was a lot of like anti-suicide stuff. And I was like, well, apparently I don't apply to that. You know what I mean?
You're the El Presidente, El Chapo.
And I was like, huh?
You're El Presidente. Mr.
apparently
Chapo.
we're not part of that, don't say anything mean to them thing. So it is.
Yeah, I don't understand how that goes, huh? It's like, if you're gonna make those posts, then let's stick by the words and let's do, everyone always says do better, and then sometimes we see the opposite. So
yeah,
the internet can be brutal. People are very disconnected on there. It's a strange era, a strange time that we're in because there's no real repercussion right away. A lot of this stuff people would never say to your face. They would never confront you and have a real conversation about it. They just sit behind a screen and a keyboard thinking they're never going to see you or have to deal with it, and it's just so easy to let words fly. But they do still affect people and have a lot of energy and carry a lot of weight. So people need to be more conscious of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's it, man.
The ones that frustrate me really are the ones that are like around any event. Let's just talk about ours. But anytime they start talking about the event, like you shouldn't go or all that kind of stuff, I'm like, you're not helping anybody. You know what I mean? So that means if some kid was debating about whether to go, where not to go, he's just going to stay at home and play on the computer or something. You know what I mean? So that's really the bad part. Like, I get really mad at people that send like pictures of weather, like when there's a storm in Texas, which there's always a storm in Texas, let's be honest. But so, the day before the event, they send out something that shows like, rain just pouring down. I'm like, so no one's coming now. Like you just.
That's my favorite paintball. Dude, that is my favorite paintball, hands down. Put the bucket hat on. I love bucket hat madness. That's what I call it. Bucket hat madness.
I'm at the point in my career that if it's raining, I'm just not playing. I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Teams I coach will be like 3 weeks out from an event, at a regional tournament, and they'll send me the weather. It shows like forecasted rain. I'm like, it's 3 weeks away. The weatherman doesn't get it right the morning of.
Yeah.
Stop sending that. Stop with the the FUD. Let's go. We're gonna be fine. A little bit of conditions.
Yeah, I try not to look at the weather.
Yeah. There was a little run there. It felt like almost every event it was like good weather, and then the weekend we were there, we'd be sure to get some rain.
It's brutal.
It's brutal.
Yes, brutal. Because it really does dictate the quality of the event to some level, or at least the amount of enjoyment you have at the event. Actually, back in the day when WDP was running the NPPL, I asked Jed, I was like, why do we keep having all these events in California? It's super expensive. He's like, it's the only way to guarantee sun. And I was like, all right, good point.
I see.
Good point.
You come to the Northeast, it's going to rain. You go to Texas, it's going to rain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the odds of having 5 days without rain is astronomical.
Yeah. And the Vegas event has always been great. We've always had
Vegas
a great.
That is always great.
Yeah, that one's always a really good one.
Tom, why don't we have more California events? To my understanding, the turnout's usually not that good. Even when we have had them in the past, the team counts have been super low, other than the Huntington Beach event, of course.
So it's actually it's kind of not fair, and I'll give you the history of it. So initially the NPPL was one entity, right? And all the events were played. And so when they did a California event, it was usually pretty well attended. But if you look at California, it's really far from the next really busy area, right? You got Vegas, which no one really, I mean, not that many people live in Vegas. It's a lot more touristy. And then you got Arizona and that whole stretch of nothingness, and Utah and all that stuff. So it's pretty challenging for people to get to. And California is just expensive for everybody. You know what I mean? I was just there at Dave Baines' field. Yeah. And, gas is like, I'm not even going to throw out a number because I can't remember, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
Almost double what it is where I live in Alabama. So
it's above 4 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like $5 out here.
If you think back what happened with the PSP and the NPPL when the split happened, the NPPL concentrated on California, and that became like a 7-man mecca. And the PSP was kind of an East Coast league, and they did both cross events, but it was more just to kind of piss in each other's backyard more than anything else.
Yeah.
So when the NPPL went bankrupt and 7-man went away, the California teams kind of lost their home. And then some of them merged into X-Ball teams or whatever, but a lot of them just went away.
Yeah.
Anytime there's one of those traumatic things in our industry where we change formats pretty drastically, you'll see a lot of people use that as their time to hang it up, right? Because if you've been hanging on for a couple of years and you're thinking about, your future, and then they change the format or the league goes out of business or whatever happens, that's typically where you're like, all right, well, that's my chance to get out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and then the PSP and then because the PSP was never that strong on the West Coast, that just continued on once they became the dominant league. They still didn't become that good, and they tried to use the West Coast as their 4th event, which has always been a dud event. And so if you're going to Riverside in August, no one's going to go.
Yeah.
And so then it's going to be a low turnout. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Do you think maybe it was because it was Riverside, not a very spectacular place in California? Do you think if the destination was a little better?
Is beautiful.
It was.
The grass was amazing. I gotta say, the grass was phenomenal.
Dude, we got our butts kicked out there in Riverside at that tournament.
Yeah, you guys did. You guys got regulated that event.
Oh man,
who were you playing with at that point?
That was Dynasty when we were wearing those football jerseys. I'll never forget it. You remember those Dynasty football style jerseys that we wore? Yeah. Oh man, that was
that was one of. I was very early on with the PSP there, and I came up and Crandall is like throwing paintballs at this corner wall. You all were like hiding in the corner trying to test the paint. And I'm like, that's like a 180-year-old Adobe building you guys are testing your paint. And he was like, oh, my bad.
Oh, God.
Like, he's throwing that at the building.
He got water. He cleaned it off. He's a good man.
So to answer that question pretty good, though, so the 4th event is always a challenging event because if you're chasing the series in the divisional levels, you typically know where you're ranked at that point. And so that's a good event to skip because you're going to get to go to World Cup. And I'm going to say 70% of the teams are the East Coast. It's also a big event to skip because it's way out there. Yeah. And if you live in California, you know it's going to be 104 in Riverside. So there's a lot of reasons to skip it. And me and Lane used to debate about it a lot, about that 4th event. And that's why when we did it, we decided to go to like Chicago, which is a place that already has a strong paintball presence to keep the numbers up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why. So it's a little bit of self-fulfilling. It's a little bit because California's expensive, and it's also that fourth slot has always been challenging. So we could potentially start an event out there, and if we could do Huntington Beach, and we've talked to Huntington Beach, but our current format just requires so much space.
Yeah.
And Huntington Beach is no mess around expensive.
Yeah. I'm sure it's that's some pretty crazy pricing to get that spot on the beach. How did that all come to fruition in the past? Like, how did we land HB in the past?
So Ron Kilborn, do you guys know Ron Kilborn?
Oh yeah,
of course.
Absolutely.
Do we know Ron Kilborn? Come on, Tom.
That's my dude. Yeah.
He was the GOAT when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So
I'll take that as a compliment. You must think we're younger than we are.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think you're younger than you are. Well, I don't know when Ron left. You know what I mean? It's been a long haul over here on my end. He worked for Huntington Beach, and so he just reached out to the WDP guys or Chuck Hench. Chuck Hench was always pretty instrumental in the Huntington Beach gig there. It was a great venue, definitely a great venue. But I don't think it was a win for them financially.
No, yeah,
I don't think it ever was. So
expensive venue. But you got to think that it really did do a lot for the sport. I mean, those are the years that, we just had Johnny Perchek on yesterday, and those were his favorite events. Those were the iconic events. Those are more often than not the events that when you talk to people about their favorite memories in paintball and what has inspired them to keep going and keep playing. And it was those events, either playing or watching, right? Being in those big grandstands. And
so at WDP, and I tried to learn a lot from the WDP era, right? Because they really did do an amazing job with the NPPL at that time. It was all about the show, right? They did a great job about the show, and then they did the bananas for the players, which is amazing. So when I leave my last event, everybody's getting free bananas. Just so the next hear about it for the next 20 years. So I played the Huntington Beach. I played with Bad Company during that era.
First of all, we hope you never leave, Tommy. I'm always going to root for you because you've done so much for paintball, and shout out to the UWL, all these other different things that you've done in the game, and I'm personally a huge fan.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back to the other thing. What was I talking about? Huntington Beach.
Bananas, giving away bananas. You played with company.
So they did a great job, and they really brought that show to it, right? And I always use the analogy, the PSP was like the divey place that was good food, and the NPPL was the nice-looking restaurant where the food wasn't that good. So I wanted to try and blend the two, and that's not a shot at either one of them, right? That's just they both concentrated on two different things.
Agreed.
And the best players went to the PSP when the original split happened, the best teams, and they had that whole NXL thing going on over there, the true NXL X-Ball format.
That's right.
So, so I tried to take the best of both worlds there and kind of meld it together. So,
yeah, I'll never forget. I played obviously with Oakland Assassins in the NXL, and we would just go and play the events, and it was all for that last one at the end of the year. And the World Cup so each tournament was, I think we played 4 games. Is that right?
Yeah.
4 games, yeah, and we would duke it out for 4 games, and then everybody would just pack up and go home, and then we would wait for Cup to decide everything at that one.
So what's funny is we played, and this is the Jeremy Solomon incident, which I love all this. So
yeah,
so I played for Bad Company. We were playing at World Cup. This is 2002.
Yep.
I was president all the way till 2001. So I stepped down in 2001, and I want to point out that I worked from 1996 to 2001 for free as the president of the NPPL.
Wow.
And, I had to pay all my own expenses and all that stuff, right? So we did all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they announced at the beginning of the year, and we suck at the time, right? We're really bad. So they announced at the beginning of the year they're going to take the top 8 teams are going to win a franchise, an NXL franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And they had debuted it at the Amateur Open and stuff. So we go and we play. And so we go to World Cup, and now we're in the top 8. This is actually a good year for us. We beat Dynasty that year. We ended up taking second at World Cup, and second or third. And
Bad Company was no joke. I mean, you guys were good. You knew how to ball.
Well, we tried for sure. But so we played Avalanche that tournament, and we beat them on the first day. And you know how you when you're doing your little stuff, you're like, we should beat these guys, and then we have our tough game, right? We were one of the games they were supposed to win, and then we won. And so I can just imagine them going back to the room, like verify this with Jeremy, and be like, "Oh my God, now we got our tough games tomorrow. We're gonna have to come up with something brilliant, like shooting from the woods." So anyhow, throughout that day, I'm trying to track down where the exhibition match is going to be because it's supposed to be at Disney. And so finally, Jerry Braun tells me, he's like, "You guys are not invited." And I'm like, "But I thought it was going to be the top 8 teams." And he's like, "Well, it was, but we don't think you guys are marketable enough, and we don't think whatever." And I'm just like, "Jerry, we're playing with like $200 guns here. We're in the finals. Like, I think we're pretty
That's
marketable."
a story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do this. So anyhow, so he said, "No, we're not going to do it." So I was furious at this point, right?
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, I feel like I volunteered my entire life for paintball, right, to get relegated at that point. So then Jeremy Salm has the incident, and I'm part of it. We throw out Avalanche, right?
Yeah.
We throw them out of the tournament. So now they can't play the exhibition because they just got thrown out of the tournament. So they have to re-invite us over there.
Dang.
But I played Strange the first X-Ball exhibition, and they destroyed us, like 36 points to 1 or something. So the Spiders are not meant for traditional X-Ball. That's for sure.
That format was bonkers. It was 25-minute halves, and it was just tumultuous paintball. It seemed like it never ends. Some of the games were like 25-6,
and when you're losing, you don't even want to go back out there. Like normally everybody's like, "I want to get in," you know what I mean? I'll do it. After about 13 points, we were like, "Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. I don't need to go back out there."
Some of the beatings that went down in the NXL were pretty wild. Like, it was crazy.
I watched the Russians play Aftershock, and it was just. It wasn't even. They didn't even get to their spots ever. Like they would run out and then they would start over. And they'd run out and they'd start over. And I'm like, "Wow, this is brutal. This is demoralizing." You know what I mean? At least if you lose like a 7-man game, you could blame it on something. You know what I mean? My gun broke, or the referee blew a call or whatever. But 26-6, there's nothing you can really blame.
Yeah, and at that time, the Russians were just next level with the off the break shooting. Their fundamentals, nobody was really working quite like they were doing at that time. So it really showed. When they would play those events.
Who could work like that? You know what I mean?
Oh, man. They were clocked in, getting it.
Still are. Yep.
Yes.
Yes,
they are.
Set the bar for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Tom, if you don't mind, I would like to kind of dive back in a little bit to Philly, touch on how that venue came to be, talk about the future of it. I know, you and I have talked a little bit about the, plans for the future with that venue. It sounds really exciting, but, for the listeners, maybe we could touch base on that.
So one of the things that I've been doing since coming over to the NXL is I've been trying to go to other sports and see how they do stuff and reach out to their C-level management and talk to them and kind of get some time with them, some FaceTime with them. So recently I got to go to the BMX championships in Tulsa and meet with those guys and see how they're doing it. And Tulsa had built them, a $6 million facility to host their championships. It's epic. It's pretty epic, right?
Yeah.
And so we're talking to those guys and we're kind of figuring out how that all works, and they're kind of giving me some pointers. And so we decided to put that out to some of the cities about whether they'd be interested in kind of having a full-time professional paintball stadium or something along those lines at their stuff. And you guys were part of the Dynasty Zoom call where I kind of showed some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But and we're still kind of a new sport in the world, even compared to like BMX. It's been around forever. So we have a good relationship with the Valley Forge people, which is what we call Philadelphia. It's a town just outside of it. So they jumped right on it and said, "Let's go ahead and make something happen." And so they found us this property, and we negotiated a long-term lease, and they're going to help fund that long-term lease so that we can build like I call it a semi-permanent structure.
Yeah.
So we can put in some fields, maybe put in for the pro field, put in some bleachers, kind of put in some permanent pits. And kind of leave it something that we can leave. Because it was actually the Philly the year before that I realized how crazy it was. Like my dad built a bridge over this river, and then we had to then on Monday we're tearing down the bridge. And I'm like, that's just a ridiculous amount of work for no reason. And so that's kind of why we did it. And so we're still currently working on it, right? They're trying to get funding from the state and from the city in order to make this thing happen. We still have the lease. We still have it. They're actually working on the grass, hopefully now. But we'll do a little spy cam of it later before we go up.
There we go.
But yeah, so that's kind of the deal. And the long-term plan is that if we can make this model work and show that it's got good economic impact for the town, we can end up with these all over the country.
Yeah.
So it could be amazing.
That's like me and my dad when I was younger. My dad would travel with me while I was playing pro paintball in my early years. I started playing pro when I was like 13, 14. And then, he traveled with me until I was like 19, somewhere in there. And then, then I was off on my own. But we would always talk about that, like how cool it would be if we could have a permanent structure, even if you had just like 5 of them or 4 of them, around the country. And then someday it could become something where like, you have maybe even more, and like Oakland flies to, Texas to play on Friday night and the community comes out and watches that. And then you got like how sports do it normally, where you have the traveling teams and they go to these spots and play.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's and it's weird because when we first started pitching it, right, that we were trying to go with a smaller footprint, right? Because obviously I can't do, a 50-acre slot that the city's going to pay for and build all that and maintain all that. So we were trying to go with like a 4-field model. So if you see, I'm testing a lot of different like pilot stuff. So the opens are kind of going to paintball parks and having smaller events, and also seeing how we can kind of run a smaller event, whether we do it over 2 weekends or whether, something along those lines. So we're testing all that different stuff.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, there's so many, there really are a lot of possibilities and ways of doing it. And, the NXL does a tremendous job of moving everything and setting all these events up and, making sure that obviously when you guys do this, the players are at the forefront of your mind. Anybody that thinks otherwise is just, it's kind of ludicrous, because why would you ever run something that way? It's just doesn't make sense.
So that's one of the funny fallacies, right? So either it's like twofold. So they'll say we make all this money, right? But then we don't want to grow paintball. So if I make my money from growing paintball, then why wouldn't I want to double it? You know what I mean? Just put that money with the rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, so obviously we want it to grow. That's not only how I make my living, that's how all of my friends make their living. That's how everyone I know makes their living. You know what I mean? So it's important to me to see paintball grow. Not
Absolutely.
just because I love it, but also because so many people that I know and like are involved in it.
Well, it's a badass game, Tom. This sport is truly deserves, like, that's the thing that kind of drives my wheels, is this is a really fun game. It is amazing. And anybody that plays this game knows how amazing paintball is. Like you'll have some people that might not like it, but that's anything. Not everybody likes, BMXing. Not everybody likes snowboarding, but you are going to have a lot of people that really appreciate this game. And we haven't even scraped the surface yet of this whole thing. I feel like people, I was just talking with my mom and dad about this. I was in Shasta with them this last weekend, and society still doesn't know that myself or Marcelo exist, really, that there are pro athlete paintball players that, that are trying to push this sport. And we just have, we have a long road, but it's a really, promising road and a satisfying road, because, we're paving the way for this whole thing, paintball.
Yeah. And go ahead, Marcelo. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people's frustration comes in. It's just a lack of patience, that we all know that we have an amazing game. We all know that we love it so much. So you see people like, why are we not being recognized by the masses yet? Why are we not on ESPN?
We're
why
babies.
Do people not know about us? We are babies in the grand.
Why are we not on the Olympics?
Yeah.
Why are we not on the Olympics?
Yeah, and I don't mean that we're babies like we whine. I mean that we're at the smallest stage.
A little bit of that too.
Yeah, because we're still like, we were just born. This sport is only 40 years old, if that, it's got so much more potential in front of it.
You do have other things that have blown up in a short amount of time. You look at like gaming and things like that. So especially nowadays with YouTube and the internet, it's so much easier for stuff to catch on. So while our sport is young,
the trend right now is that niche sports like ours are gaining in popularity, because there's so many people in the world and everybody wants to identify with something that is special to them. And so these little niche sports and we are a niche sport, are growing. But we are big in anybody's world other than like the big four.
Yeah.
I mean, when we set up these events, people in the sports industry are amazed at the size of our events and the viewership at our events and the grandstand at our events and all that stuff is one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool to see people's faces when they come out.
Did anybody from the city of Philly come to the event
Yeah,
and
about
check
12
it
of them.
out?
They
12 of
spent
them?
all day there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was amazing.
totally.
Yeah. So
And what did they think?
they loved it. They're the reason why they want to have us back there forever, right? They're pushing this stuff through to kind of get it to happen. We actually went and we gave away free flyers to everybody in the neighborhood there to come watch. We don't know how many people actually came and watched, but people seemed really appreciative, and a lot of the people in the neighborhood, it was a trailer park next door, but they were like,
Love
"Yeah,
it.
we hope it ends up being a permanent thing." And I'm like, "Well, let's hope so."
So
love
this
that.
was free grandstand passes?
Free grandstand passes.
I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. Like that's a phenomenal thing for some of these places we go to.
Yeah, we'll touch on a topic there because everybody's always, and it was actually a battle at Philly with me and one of the customers. But so we've added free viewing, right? Just not in the grandstands.
Yeah.
To the pro field. So we
That's
basically
right.
have grandstands on the left, we have VIP in the middle, and then we have free viewing on the right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and one of the reasons why I don't get away from the paid grandstand things, there's multiple reasons. One, if you give everything away for free, there's no intrinsic value. So when I tell a kid, "Hey, here's a free grandstand ticket, and it only costs $25," he's appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Two, we're not growing anything if the only people that see us do it are the same people that are already there. So that's always the big argument. Why the divisional guys, they pay all this money, why can't they come get to watch the pros?
What
And I
I
agree.
would-
That's why we add the other half.
What I will say is photos in the webcast with an empty stands just looks really bad. Whatever we can do to fill them up, you know.
Well, you need to be cooler.
Being cooler might help.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's funny because I watched. I was arguing with. I was at lunch with Gino from Valken and Joe from Valken,
Yeah.
and I was watching the New York Open tennis tournament. I'm probably butchering that name, right? But it was the quarterfinals there, and the stands were empty.
Yeah.
On Sunday, the stands are not empty. I can assure you.
That's
For sure.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have big crowds.
So we need to do a better
Even
job.
Saturday.
Yeah.
One of the things we need to do a better job of is getting some people out there for free during that day, those days that are down. But our biggest thing is, from my point of view, so you got a kid, and let's just say he's a Dynasty fan, right? And so, because I love Dynasty. So he's a Dynasty fan. So he drives in, let's say it's World Cup, and he drives up from Tampa, and he doesn't have a ticket because, everything's free. And he shows up, and he walks into the grandstands, and it's completely full of New York Extreme guys because they're over there lounging in the grandstands, and he's got nowhere to sit. He's not going to complain, and he's not going to tell the New York Extreme guys to get the hell out the way. He's just going to walk away, leave, and be sad. So under this current
Maybe.
No,
Or he might be like, this is super cool. It's packed. This is exciting. The energy's right.
I don't know where to be.
Maybe.
And if you're a mom and
I can see that going either way.
a kid or whatever, you're not going to just push a bunch of grown ass paintball people out of the way. And so we saw this at Philly, and I'll give New York Extreme the plus side. A dad and his son dressed very nicely came in, and they were looking for a seat in the VIP, and there wasn't anything with two of them together, and then they walked back outside. And so I went and grabbed them and said, "Hey, I'll find you a seat." And I come up and asked the New York Extreme guys, and they moved away and made two seats and went and stood up for these two guys to sit in the front row.
That's awesome.
So,
Okay.
and that was super nice of them.
Yeah.
This must have been just before.
Environment.
Yeah.
It's a very intimidating environment to walk.
This must have been just before Harris Hussein lost his gold coin to Todd Adamson betting on the Impact Ironman game.
Yes, that is probably right. Yes, he was feeling unlucky. Figured he would do something to try and help out his karma.
Tommy, you got the black coins, right?
I got the black coins.
Legend coins. Yeah.
Coins.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you make a good point there, especially if, like other sporting events, you don't expect to go and get dirty, and, you want to be able to have a seat if you're going to go watch, especially if it's, you're stopping by, whatever it might be. So I could see that for sure. If you come
true
in,
fans should have a seat, right? There's not a lot of professional sports. Either we're worth watching or we're not worth watching.
Yeah.
It's kind of like concerts at the very front, That's how it is right now. It's just kind of a little bit of a free for all.
So that's why we have the right-hand side, right? We have the right-hand side. It's the free-for-all, and you guys who know the deal and want to go heckle the pro teams can go over to that side, and the guys that want to pay $10 can go to the other side. It's really, I'm trying to keep it for families and plus, I mean, let's be honest, paintball people can be obnoxious, right? And so we're trying to get some place that's a little more controlled so I can have, you know,
Yeah.
I
No,
really do. I love that. I love
families.
that. I even, when I was strolling by, grabbing gear and all that stuff, I would stroll into the little free area and watch some points from that side over there and then just keep moving. But it's a really good thing. Also, it's cool. You got, all the community is all watching from that side. And then obviously we want people to have some seats in the stands, but it's really nice that, there's both options there.
Right.
I didn't even know that this was an option. And I know it's been something that players have like complained about for a long time.
Yeah.
Where has this been posted?
Yeah,
we got that's exciting stuff.
I don't think you watch a Facebook. Trust me, I had some guy literally ready to beat me up because I wouldn't let him in the grandstands, and I'm like, "You can stand right there, 7 feet away." And he's like, "That's bullshit." And I was like, "I'm talking 7 feet."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay." And then he came back 10 minutes later. He's like, "Yeah, I'm an idiot."
Okay.
It's right there. Like, I'm just saying, you can't be there. So, you got to be right there. So.
Tommy, we do need to get some Instagram posts going with this information and really blow it up. Maybe start a reel, Instagram reel. Do something.
There you go.
Yeah. Reels are the new thing. That's how you tag onto the algorithm and it blows up. Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reel. I'll keep that in mind.
It does. One of our PTG Discord members actually had a good question that is kind of in regards to this, and he says, she says, "Hey Tom, with all the feedback you guys ask for and receive, do you think you could do a monthly cast with Go Sports about the changes you guys are going to implement?" Something like that could be kind of cool, if you do something public with Go Sports, everybody knows to go to Go Sports to watch the NXL events. Maybe we could get some updates and things like that there.
Yeah, we would love to do that.
Or
we should do
PTG.
more of that. Yeah.
Or PTG. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm not good at is being in front of people, and obviously we've tried to do a little bit more of that here recently. But I'm more of a face-to-face like kind of guy, and I definitely haven't done enough of the. I'm an old school guy. We need to do more of these. We need to do more outreach because you can have free gold, but if no one knows about it, then there's nothing you can do about it, right? So
yeah, and you guys are always working hard to and you're listening. It's not like you're not observant. You guys are obviously taking in information and making changes as necessary and doing all the things.
So we talked about going to the Champions Cup. I think it was the first time any league has actually sat down with an entire pro team and just said, here's the plan, here's what I'm thinking, give me your feedback, and kind of go through that. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever done that.
No, I've not in my 20 years of pro paintball. I think that was the first time that had ever happened. Yeah, that was and that's what it's all about, is connectivity, right? At the end of the day. And the community is going to talk, and then we got to move and shift and try to do the best that we can. But it's, nothing's ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be something. But at the end of the day, the paintball world is not out to, sabotage anybody. We're trying to do the best we can with these events and put on a good show and boost this game to the moon. That's where we're headed,
Yep, we're trying for sure.
Yeah, I think the question and the conversations are geared around. So how do we do that? And this is stuff, Tom. Obviously, you guys don't just work the 5 events a year. You're year round, every single day, day in, day out, having meetings with cities, trying to figure out how to throw the best event, where to have the best location. So maybe you can explain a little bit like what that looks like and what it is that you do to assure that NXL events are going to run smoothly or be in a place that, you think there's going to be a lot of participation, people are going to be happy with. Like, how do you guys go about picking a venue?
So it's actually good timing because I leave tomorrow for a trade show that we're going to. And so basically I'm going to go to a trade show where I have a booth, and I have, I think, 46 meetings. The meetings are 3 minutes, so it's like speed dating. So basically I'm going to sit down in a booth with what we call an RFP, which is a request for proposal, which basically is like details of what we need out of a venue and then other perks that we're going to do. And the cities are going to come through and basically give me a 3-minute pitch to see if it's worth even continuing a dialogue. And at some of those same people will be, hotel chains and stuff like that. Like we did a deal with Red Roof Inn 2 years ago, right before the day it hit, where they were giving everybody a discount. So this is our chance to get in front of those cities and kind of talk to them. And so that's what we'll do over the next 4 days. Plus, then we'll go in the middle. So you meet for 4 hours in the morning, and then for 4 hours in the afternoon, they have class for event promoters like us, which is a real learning curve because it's the problems we have are the same problems that everybody has. And so we'll do that over 4 days. And then when we come back, we'll try and vet some of that information and continue that dialogue about how we can, move to these different cities. And to be honest, when we first started this, and Damien pointed this out a little bit, so these venues, some of these cities are actually giving us some kickback to try and get us to come to these cities. So that's a big plus. And actually, on one of these shows that we were talking about the venues, I don't know whose show I did it on, but one of the cities watched it and saw that they didn't get the bid, and they were like texted me and they're like, "Well, I'm sorry we didn't get that." And I'm like, "It's like live." Like she hit me up as we go. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So we are making a wave in the sports industry by how big we are as far as the events, the participations, and the enthusiasm of our athletes, right? We're a well committed group. And when we pick a location, look at how many people come, right?
Yeah, and if you watch, have you seen the paintball clip that was shared on the Sports Center Instagram? There's been 2 actually in the last couple months.
Yep.
Pretty cool. It got the most engagement out of like any of their recent posts. And we're talking, they have posts with like LeBron, Kobe, all sorts of people that are big time in other sports. And the paintball post, obviously because every single paintball player just shows out for that kind of stuff, and really shows the support.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty unique sport, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And it's a cool sport. It's definitely eye catching when you see it, you know what I mean? And that's one of my concerns about, so we obviously are pushing this, go back to the fields thing and try and have some smaller events, right? But I do think it's important to have some epic wow factor events,
Yeah,
right? Like
sure.
Huntington Beach or, even this Atlantic City event, you know what I mean? Like we've gotten used to them, but people that put on events and see stuff like this, they realize that this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
you gotta have that.
And we've been in touch with Red Bull. If we ever go back to Atlantic City, Red Bull's back in.
Nice.
We just picked up Rain energy drink. They came to their first event, which was Philly.
Yep.
Which was good. So now they're coming back for Chicago. So we are making some inroads.
And what do they do at the events? I saw Rain. They were there handing out free energy drinks to all the players. Do they do any other kind of marketing or anything?
So the way a lot of that works is you're actually not dealing with Rain directly. You're dealing with a middle company that's designed to be their grassroots growth marketing company. So they just get hired to kind of do this. And then it kind of goes on up the channel. So we found one of those groups. They actually found us and realized that this is actually a really good place to kind of give this stuff out. And so now they've sent them up the corporate ladder so that a second company has reached out to us now to go do the Rain stuff. So we're learning that might be a better way than trying to like reach out to Gatorade directly, but to go out to the street teams or whatever who have already been paid by Gatorade and put us in their portfolio of places to reach out to people. Because in the end, and like I try and tell this to everybody that we talk to as an outside sponsors, paintball players in general have a chip on our shoulders that we haven't been looked at as a real sport. And so the first company that comes in and really gets behind paintball is going to receive some positive feedback. And every time they come, like, so Rain came to our event and they were amazed at the overwhelming of support, right? Because people were just like, yeah, go, you know what I mean? We're so happy to have you. Whereas they might not get that everywhere they go.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think you saw a similar thing when Under Armour came in, when Dave Cheney brought Under Armour in, everybody was rocking Under Armour. And then, he now works at New Balance. And you see everyone rocking New Balance just to show the support because, we definitely as paintball players appreciate any sort of legitimate outside company that shows us some love. We're down with it, why wouldn't we be,
Yeah, Cheney is a one-man marketing army. Yes, every time he switches sides, he gets a whole bunch of new people. So yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy.
He was with Red Bull as well.
He was, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. He was definitely my link into there too. So he's good stuff. So
he is.
Good
yeah,
stuff.
He actually started this amazing thing called the Blue Ridge Paintball Club. Yeah, Blue Ridge Paintball Club, and they are just crushing it. It's like a community paintball club where you can sign up online, and it's kind of like street ball. Remember back in the day, you would just show up and play, with whoever is out there. Well, now he's done this online thing where you can, kind of make those street ball kind of leagues and sign up, and then go out and just run around and have fun with the community.
That's really cool. That
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yep. Follow them on Instagram, Blue Ridge Paintball
I
Club.
will follow them on Instagram.
Give them some love out there.
Yeah, shout out to Dave for that.
Yeah.
So Tom, again, sorry we keep kind of getting a little off track, but with
Right.
the Philly thing, because that to me is a really cool concept. Having a field that we can build around being a professional event location, like a stadium kind of thing.
Yep.
Will it be open to the general public during the year when we're not there? Like, are you trying to turn it into a paintball field per se, or is it just for the
specific
events?
one, in a perfect world, yes. Right. So that's our long-term goal, right? Is to have it so they'd be open to the public all the time. This one has only been okayed for 7 events. So we had to go in front of the zoning council and say, hey, we want to run this thing here. And they did not want, because of the traffic on the streets, they did not want something going on there every weekend. So the basic deal that we're cutting is that we would be an overflow area for the soccer complex right beside us. They would maintain the grass for us as part of that they were allowed to do a certain. They have 2 events, I think, that are overflow. So they would enable to use that stuff, and then we would do 7 of our own events on side of it. So we're looking at one big event, which would be the Philly Open, and then 6 smaller events, however we end up doing that. And whether one of those events is a practice weekend that we announce the layout and just let everybody come up there and practice, or whatever we do. So and that still is, I mean, cool. That's one of the, so that property is a weird piece of property because it's been sold as agricultural retention, right? So basically in Pennsylvania, they will sell land in order to keep it agricultural, for whether it's for tax credits or for actual money. So if you own a lot of land, you can just say, hey, this farm, we're going to keep farmland for the next 100 years, and then they'll get a government. Yeah. And so, yes, so that's why it looks like a farm. So, so this landowner, who's a super nice guy, has said, well, we'll try and use it for paintball. So we had to go through this whole zoning process to try and get it so that we are allowed to do that. So
I see.
And so, I mean, you've kind of touched on it, Tom, but when you're looking at these places, because that sounds awesome. I'm really excited for the future of having superb grass to play on, that we know every year we're going to go to that field and we know what we're going to get. That's amazing. What are some of the other things, like as far as I'm sure you have a checklist when you're looking at venues of things you have to.
We have a checklist, but it's a lot of give and take, right? So, and the funny thing is, so expense is one of my biggest things, right? So like Philly, like I had a little bit of a heart attack because everybody started talking about the flights of Philly and the rental cars of Philly. And that stuff really changed because of COVID, because we checked it before COVID and the prices weren't that bad. Now the Northeast is always super expensive as far as the thing. But the first thing we do is we try and make sure we have enough hotel room nights in the general vicinity to even accommodate the event. And then we have to have enough flights. We need what we call a tier 1 airport, which is an airport that's going to have enough flights to fly the whole tournament series in and not change the market value of prices. So if we went to a venue, Montgomery, Alabama, which is where I live, right? If we threw a tournament in Montgomery, Alabama, we would double the cost of flights from the day that we launched it to the day that it happened. Because the way the airlines see it, they see the volume go up and they know they have 100 seats a day and they see 75 of them get full. Those next 25 seats go up to $1,000.
Yeah.
And if they see them not filling up, then they start dropping the prices. That's why prices are different almost every day when you go in to check airfare. So that's the first thing we do is check the volume of stuff that can go in and then we kind of go, is there stuff to do nearby? And then what is the cost of the hotels? And a weird anomaly is, so I'm a cheapskate. So I'm always trying to go to the cheap venues like Cleveland and Nashville and stuff like that that's super cheap. And then venues like Vegas and Atlantic City, which are 2 of our most expensive venues, end up outperforming team-wise than the cheap venues because our consumers are outweighing that they want to be able to do stuff at night versus a cheap event. You know what I mean? So our events are kind of like a good time experience. So we have to weigh all those different things and kind of parlay those in.
If you see that, do you think it's beneficial to make that one of the main focuses? Good locations that everybody wants to go to with some fun activities, things of that nature.
Yes. And that's why we ended up in Atlantic City, because I was like, we just need a Vegas on the East Coast. And Atlantic City is kind of a, redheaded stepchild of Vegas on the East Coast. So it wasn't quite as good. But we also need to split the venues up around the country to make sure that we have driving distance where we're reaching a lot of different customers. So our top 3-tier teams, pro, semi-pro, and D2, they basically play our events because there's no local opportunities for them to compete at the level that they're at. So it's easy for them to remember, like people pitch to me, let's just do Florida 5 times, right? We like renting the houses, flights are always cheap, the weather's always nice. But the problem is the Northeast is really our largest concentration of players. So that's why the Philly event is always our most well attended, or the Atlantic City. Even though it's super expensive, it's because a lot of people can drive to it. So when you're on a pro team, you think everybody's just flying to all 5 events. It doesn't really matter where they are, but that's not the case. You need to be within a driving thing. So I draw an 8-hour circle around the city, which is our cap drive time for our customers. And we try and look at the paintball density and the overall population density. So that's why Denver doesn't work. So Denver seems, at the first level, it's a great spot, right? Weed's legal. They have a decent little paintball community there out of Denver. But then when you draw around it, you got Nebraska, Wyoming, there's just not a lot of people that can drive to it. So, and that's why I don't think Denver's a good location. And it's really the difference between a 120 team event and a 200 team event.
It's a massive
We can put 120 people anywhere, right? We can go to Anchorage, right? We're going to have 120 teams. It's that next 80 teams that make the decision based upon whatever their random different criteria are. And a lot of it is the distance, the location.
Yeah.
Goodness, I imagine this takes you a ton of time. You're an expert. You're a master at this. You've been doing it for so long. And I think that's something a lot of people fail to realize. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Ideas are great, and I'm sure we all have ideas, but the reality and the logistics of putting it all together, I mean, just, these cities in and out, and how to get in with, the places there, and all of the logistics that you wouldn't think about, like the surrounding states. Oh yeah, Denver's cool. Why not have it in Denver? They used to have the NPPL back there as a badass event.
Yeah,
let's just do that. But then it doesn't. You only get 120 teams, and you've just been doing this for a long time, Tom. So,
well, and I'd like to say it's a science, but it's not, right? Some of it's just gut. You know what I mean? Like we look at Cleveland. Cleveland to me looked like it was going to be a good location because it's easy to drive to, and hotels were $54. But it ended up being a low turnout event. Now, do we put that off because it was one of our earlier events and no one knew what the NXL was going to be? Or is it because Cleveland just doesn't have a good wow factor as far as driving to? So that we don't really know all the answers.
Of course, yeah.
But so we're constantly trying different stuff.
Have you guys thought about, and I know Kirill and the Russians have been big advocates of this. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I do know it's pretty expensive, but having turf for the events, because rain or shine, you're going to get the same conditions. That Millennium turf that they used to have, that they would bring to all of their events, was so good, no matter what conditions.
I don't remember them bringing turf to every event, so I'd have to pencil that. But logistically, okay. I don't believe in someone that's a turf expert, but I've asked, right? Because in my world, I would much rather just go to a parking lot and roll out some turf, right? I mean, trying to find 50 acres of flat grass is challenging, and in Philly, it's really challenging. So it would be way easier to do that. But I mean, trucking, I'll just throw out the number there. It's like $2.50 a mile to deliver stuff, right? And I believe every field is one truck of turf, right? So just think of that. So the United States is what it takes to drive across the United States, 4,000 miles, something like that. So yeah, $2.50 a mile for every truck. That's $12,000 a truck.
Yeah.
An extra $12,000 a field one way.
It's pretty pricey.
So yeah, and then there's the challenges. So the turf, if you were just laying down like I'll call it the NPPL carpet, right? The way they used to do that.
Oh yeah.
Super, super flimsy turf and some spray paint green.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I played back then and now I see why they did it, right? Because it's just the transparency of, if you're going to have a big bald spot, you might as well paint it green and hope for the best. But they, even that was expensive to put down. So now when you start trying to put the rubber in it, it's really hard to lay that down. You would need, another 3 days just to lay a field with a crew of people and machines.
Yeah, I wonder how the Millennium did it, and they certainly did.
To be honest with you, tomorrow I will ask because they all still work for us.
For sure.
So I will find out.
But they had the good like thick plush soccer turf as well. I mean, it was
amazing.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It truly was. It was really nice to play on.
So they must have been a problem because they got rid of it before we took it over, right? Because they went away with it at some point in time.
Oh, it's a chore to move that and lay it. I mean, moving these tournaments, let alone
So that's
moving
why
these
wouldn't it be
tournaments.
better if we just had a permanent facility that had 4 turf fields
Yeah,
and
right, right.
and went on with it? You know what I mean? So it just takes a whole other element out of what we're trying to do as far as moving it and building it and tearing it down, right?
Totally.
yeah,
And I say this all the time, but we build the largest paintball park in the world,
yeah,
and then we tear it down and move it, and then do it again. I mean,
yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah, and you guys, I mean, it is a lot of work. You know, the guys show up, I mean, I would imagine about a week or maybe even 2 before, right? To start setting
Yeah,
these up.
it's called egress. We start the Monday before the event,
Uh-huh.
and then we're out of there the Thursday after the event.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
that's when I get my snippiest with people online or when people call me because they start calling me like on Tuesday, acting like I'm home already. You know what I mean? And you're
Yeah.
like, "No, we're still here. We're still
Yeah.
doing this stuff."
Do you
Yeah.
guys have other locations you're looking at like Philly that are close to coming to some sort of agreement of having a permanent facility?
We are. We actually have one company that has 7 locations that we could choose from, and I can't disclose any more than that. But yeah,
Oh,
we
you
have
got to
one
give us
group.
one, Tom.
Nope,
You
nope.
can't.
You got to give
You
us
know, once you
one.
figure out one, you'll know all 7. So we
Huh.
actually just had a good
Okay.
conversation with them today. So it could actually be pretty epic.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's exciting. That
Once
is,
you
lie.
give us
Yeah,
one, we'll
right.
figure out all
it's a
7.
riddle.
That does
It's
make
a
sense.
riddle.
Yeah, it's a riddle.
Let's put the tinfoil hats on and go to Riddletown.
Yeah.
One ring to rule them all. Yeah, no, if I give you one venue, you'll figure out all 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Gotcha.
it's an interesting world. So a lot of other sporting events aren't doing that well as far as their attendance. Their viewership online is still well, or their viewership,
Mhm.
is still doing well, and that's still generating the income. But people are not coming out to events the way they used to, and they still are for us. So that gives us an opportunity to move into some places where things aren't doing that well. So
Interesting.
I see you thinking hard about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my wheels are turning, but I'll respect it. It's okay. We'll wait. Thought you'd want to break some news here on play the game, but
Yep.
maybe next time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just not far enough along, right? We don't
Sure,
want to have
of
anything.
course.
Kind of
Yeah, you
get
don't
in
want
the
to
way and
compromise
mess it up,
that.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how about these other one-off events, Tom? How do you feel about, Meter and Rainey? They just ran the Astro event. Heard it went very well out in Texas. How do you feel about those kind of events that are being thrown?
I think they're great. Everybody, there's going to be always like a little war there, right? And I thought of the perfect analogy, right? It's like, so you guys are a pro team, right? And a kids team or a young team comes up to you and says, "Hey, do you want more teams in paintball?" And you're like, "Yeah." And then you help them out. You give them some pointers or whatever. But then at some point in time, they're going to step on the field and they got to play against you. And then your job is to beat them. So that's how I look at my thing, right? I want as many leagues as possible. I want as many one-off events. I actually like one-off events because they can take chances that I can't. You know what I mean? So like Meter just ran something. He did limited paint. He did, I don't know what else he did. He did race 2, I believe. I love it when people put sweat equity into making paintball good and doing what they think I should do, right? Instead of just telling me what I should do, Meter went out and tried it. And I actually texted Meter and said, "Hey, go make it fucking happen." I was actually disappointed we ran an open at the same time. I'm going to get some grief for this, right? But we didn't do a good job of announcing that we were going to do the open, and we did it for New York Extreme. They had been bugging me all year to have another event, sort of like their practices, so they could play one. And then Meter did this secret tournament that I really didn't know about, right? And then the day he announced is also the day we are announcing. So it looked like, if you're wearing a tinfoil hat, it's going to look like we did it to kibosh them.
Yeah.
And
Here
I
we
actually
go.
already talked to Meter about it.
We'll put them
If
on.
I'd have known you were doing it, I wouldn't have done it for sure. And I would have sent New York Extreme down there.
Well, that's because that's definitely what a lot of people thought. A lot of people thought, here comes Meter and Rainey trying to put together a nice little one-off event, nice prize package for the pro teams, and then the NXL did announce, it was either later that day or the next day, that they were doing it too, and so rightfully so, you can see where that would lead to a lot of bad feedback. Yeah.
We did a bad job there, but I mean, I've said this all along. Like even Tim, right? So me and Tim talked about the ICC because I was running the UWL at the time. And then we started the ICPL, right? And we bounced ideas off of one another all the time. And anytime we were kind of close to maybe kind of trying to conform our systems, we both agreed, let's just keep it different. so that we can find out what's going to work. It's too early in the classic paintball scene to have one rule standard already set and make that the standard, because we don't know what people are going to end up liking. And for me to change something at the NXL level, even if it benefited 75% of the people, the 25% of the people that hate it are going to make it seem like the worst thing we've ever done. So it is easier for other people to do it and see if it's going to work. And then obviously when I start copying it, then they're going to be mad and say that I stole their idea. But I mean, that's to me, I believe in evolution, right? It's if you're playing against a team and they're constantly going to the snake and they're messing you up because they're getting in the snake, you're not stealing their idea because you started sending someone in the snake. That's just making everyone better. And so if, you know what I mean? So that to me is the evolution of the game. You know what I mean? And I want to get pushed. You know what I mean? I want to wake up, fueled by hate, right? I like that, right? If I have another tournament promoter say something, take a shot at our event or something, that makes me want to win. You know what I mean? And then that just in the end helps the players, right? So if I end up, sharpening my pencil or going to work a little earlier and making something happen, then that's good for everybody, right?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%. Competition is good, and I think these one-off events are good as well. It's a good, fun opportunity.
And to be honest, my biggest allies become people that just ran an event, right? Because now they realize no fun. You know what I mean? Like, I sent Meter a text. I said, "Good luck this weekend." He's like, can't wait for it to be over." And I'm like, "Yeah." Now you just described my year.
Yeah. What do we think about the 4 pods, guys? Because that's what they did, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I don't really. So this is something that Tim taught me. I don't really care one way or another. But Tim did say that it does change the dynamic of who you put on your roster. And it doesn't necessarily affect the pros, but on the lower division. So right now, when you have unlimited paint, you can take your dad, for example, who may not be the fastest guy, and say, "Hey, stay in the center back and just watch this lane the whole game." Now, when you go to limited paint, you really need a guy that's going to be able to get in that snake as soon as your number one snake guy gets eliminated and get up there. And so he saw a long-term backlash to that in Europe, that they started losing those big guys who typically end up being the guys that build the teams and kind of make it happen.
Yeah.
I call it Dave Painter syndrome, right? So Dave Painter is a force behind his team. Whether he pays for it or not, he is the guy that organizes the team. He's the guy that makes the calls. People come to play for Dave Painter. When we lose the Dave Painters, we lose the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
You need those guys to organize it.
Yeah. That I would love to also see 10-man pro make a push, and that would be a dream come true to come full circle and do big 10-man events someday with our whole rosters. That would be insane.
I love 10-man for sure.
Me too.
100%. Yeah. Dude, I got to finally play against you with the ICC, Tom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You guys destroyed us.
I think the best game I played all weekend.
It wasn't on the
you stepped it up against me. I'm glad you stepped it up.
It wasn't on the Mounds field, obviously, because he had a rough time out there.
It was not the Mounds field.
I didn't hear he had a rough time. No, it was in the woods, which should have gave us a fighting chance. But
Tom,
they lost the game before, and so we were retribution.
Exactly.
They definitely made us pay.
I
never stopped shooting on the whole damn time.
Oh, come on.
The whole time.
Oh, man.
Got my ass kicked in the Mounds field.
Yeah, the Mounds is no joke out there.
Mounds is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, Tom, kind of leads into another question, and we've talked about this quite a bit. We did talk a little bit at ICC. I don't know if you're ready to share any of that stuff about ways to offer a better prize package for the teams. And that's obviously a hot topic. I know, if you see online, that's what so many of these players are curious about. How can we get better prize packages, when we come to these events?
Well, I give you the first thing is when we do throw an event that has a big prize package, you need to play it. So
that is fair.
So I pushed this, and this obviously the pros weren't happy with it, but we did that 2v2. That was the largest prize package we've ever given away.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right. And we had 250 people played it.
Yeah.
So we have a 10-man tournament going on at the same event. So it was I don't know, it was $150 a person for the 2-man, right? So it was $75 a person. Or you could go play 10-man with zero prize package and pay $100 a person. And we had more people play the 10-man than we played the 2-man.
Oh, wow.
And so it's people are always like, when people are like talking about the boycott and all that stuff, they say put your money where your mouth is, right? And that's true, right? So the Spider Cups, I did the Spider Cups. Everybody always mentions the Spider Cups when they start
Yeah.
surprise. I was
Legendary.
the guy that did the Spider Cups.
Yeah.
And they have less people playing those than they did the NPPL at the time that have way less prize package. We gave away 4 Hummers. 4.
Yeah. That's
Hummers,
crazy.
Right? We had 72 teams, and I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get teams.
Huh. Why do you think that is? Why is that?
Because in the end, what it says to me is that people aren't playing for the money, even though the money's nice, right? And that's Ryan and them. They played the first Spider Cup where they won the Mustangs. There was only I'm going to say 67 teams there playing for 5 Mustangs.
It was a long time ago, though, too, right?
Yeah, but we were doing 200 teams then at an event. You know what I mean? Wasn't that long ago.
Was it the location or where they were positioned?
No,
because players were there. Yeah,
a couple things. People don't trust standalone events like that, like the Spider Cup or the 2v2. Right? I'm sure there was a lot of people saying we weren't going to pay the prize package, and it does take some time for it to sink in. But also, people want to play for prestige. You know what I mean? It's not like, and I got an argument with a team, because they just won D4 and at the World Cup, and they're like, "This is stupid. We won $3,000, and those guys won $50,000." And I was like, "Did you not know that before you entered?" You know what I mean? Like, we had a big ad that said $50,000 over here and $3,000 here. It wasn't a surprise, but they were like, "But we want to play X ball," and I was like, "Okay, well then, you know what I mean? If you want to play the dollar lottery, you can't be mad when you win $1. Pony up and play the $1 million lottery."
Yeah.
So, and it really does. It's a challenge, and this is one of the things that I didn't like about Meter's event. Right, is there's a culture right now of like, if we can't win the money, we shouldn't play the event, right? And so Meter made a good decision by not inviting some of the top 5 teams. Right, he said the top 5 teams couldn't play. But so are we a competition, or are we, let's give out a prize to the best guy of every division? And so that is a problem, right? That the bottom ranked pro teams don't have a chance to win the money. So why would they play an event that they know they don't have a chance to win? So I can't answer all those questions as far as why people play, but if you want me to give you how to get the prize package back up,
yep,
get rid of X ball.
There we go. Do what?
Get rid of X ball.
Get rid of X ball.
Get rid of X ball.
Okay.
Well, all right. So there's 2 things. So what you're talking about is my format where we cap the amount of bodies on a team. So we'll start with that. So
okay.
And so we're going to make up a number. Let's just say right now that we give away $50,000 an event in prizes, right? So if we drew on a wall the 200 teams at the event, you would not say that 12,000 is going to go to first, and then 10,000 is going to go to 72nd, and then 15,000 is going to go to 112th, right? But that is kind of what we do now, because we give money to the pro, and then we give money to the semi-pro, and then we give money to D2, and then we give money to D3, and then we give money to D4, and then we give money to the 10-man amateur, we give money to the 10-man open, we give 3-man open, 3-man amateur, and God knows what else, right? So in reality, if we were truly playing a competition, we would just lump everybody into one thing and winner take all. But the problem with that is that no one would show up because they know they're not going to beat the top 6 teams.
Yeah. I think people just like, even if they just break even, I think that's like, if there's the dream of that, I think that
break even. How the hell are you going to break even?
I know.
He spends like $4 million a year to try and play. You think Randy's breaking even over there?
No, hell no, he's not. It's
there's a difference with those teams that are paying, salaries to their players. But I think, for divisional teams, especially when you get into the semi-pro division and pro division, at least like the cost,
I'm not talking about
the initial cost. I think is what teams hope that they can get reimbursed.
It really comes down to we used to give away $40,000 for 10-man, right? With a lot less teams. Just the cost to run those events is just a lot cheaper. So we'll go back to my idea there with the thing. So I think it's a neat idea, and it's not truly vetted yet, right? But let's just say we gave every division a point total. So pros are worth 11. Semi-pro guys are worth 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, one down the line. So where an unranked player is a 0, and then D5 is 1, right? And each team can only have 17 points. So you can decide whether you want to have one pro and a bunch of D5 guys, or two semi-pro guys and a bunch of D4 guys, and basically make the median team ranking a D4. And then we could have a tournament that had 200 teams. Even if you paid $1,000 a team, you're looking at a $200,000 prize pool that we'd obviously have to run the event with it and all that stuff, but you could give away a significant prize package, which is how the 2v2 was working, right? Because we really only had the one division. So it's instead of trying to divide it up into 20, every 20 teams get their own separate prize package, we could lump them all into one thing and kind of do it. And that's like one of my, just a,
Yeah.
Logistically, when you were explaining that to me, I was like, yeah, God, it makes sense. And that could be a really cool thing. But I'm like, damn, it's just not the best of the best competing for, a big prize package. But I agree. I think you would get so many divisional teams that are like, hey, what local pro or who, majority of these divisional teams have some connection with a pro in the league. And so they reach out.
We would even put the list up, right? We would say, these are the pros that are available. This is how you can contact them, kind of do it that way. We've even thought about, and like I said, this is a brainstorm thing. This is what you get when I'm just trying to paintball chat, right?
Of course. Yeah.
We may even, we talked about even assigning the pros, but then it would be logistically hard for like where you're out of, and everybody's going to want, Brian Greenspan, right? No one's going to want, me, for example. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it a little more. I didn't want to pick on any existing.
I was wondering who you were going to say, Tom.
Yeah, that's why I had to think better of that. I shouldn't name names. But so everybody's going to want Ryan over me, right? And then we even had the mouse effect, because someone was like, well, they're just going to pick Mouse, and Mouse is just going to go in the snake and crush any team. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just telling you that was the Mouse effect that people talked about.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
So, that's an idea, right? That's kind of one of the ideas around it. But I do think the Champions Cup is another way to kind of, and we're revisiting that now for 2023 and 2022, is trying to make it so that you play local and the money is staying inside the paintball industry, and then we can increase that prize package because it is the best of the best.
What do you mean by play local? Like go to local paintball parks instead of the venues?
Let's look at what happened at Dave Baines' park at the Open that we did in the NXL. So 40% of those people that played that event had not played an NXL event in the previous 2 years. Our average going into that is 18% of the people haven't played an NXL event in 2 years. So we just doubled the amount of people that got involved with the NXL, right? And a lot of them were from the Sacramento, the NorCal area, right? So we got to let those guys play an event. And if this was a Champions Cup year, that ranking would have counted towards their rankings. And so once they play that event, and then let's say maybe we do a Vegas, right? And so now that's worth something. And now they go to World Cup. That's their 3 scores they're allowed to use, and they only had to fly one time. And so now they've been able to keep that money. Instead of spending it on travel, they get to keep that money, and they get to play more paintball, and then they get to go to the Champions Cup for a big prize, because we would obviously pay out smaller or no prizes at the more local type events and lump it all into that thing. And so Chris from Virtue suggested I watch like the Formula One thing on Netflix to kind of get an idea, right? And so I've been watching it, and they're doing almost the exact same thing, where every race, it matters where you place. Whereas, let's be honest, if you guys get knocked out and you guys are playing, we don't even do a 3rd and 4th consolation prize because the pro teams hate it, right? But if it was going to determine how many points you got to move into a final, world championship type of deal, that would be a game that people would play and people would want to watch.
Yeah.
Make it a battle of the rest, right? So on that Netflix thing, they talk a lot about that, like the best of the rest, because obviously Mercedes-Benz is so far ahead of everybody else. I mean, they have 500 people working for Mercedes-Benz to make sure their cars are running. I mean, that's crazy. That's so much farther than everybody else's. And that's sort of like what we have at the Big Five now. But there's this race for the best of the rest to kind of see where they're going to end up. And we would end up with that same thing in Champions Cup, is my envision.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, that could be a really great concept. I was excited for it this year. Bummer that it didn't quite happen, but I think there is a lot of opportunity there. It does make the whole season interesting, and it makes those matches for Go Sports much more interesting. Those semifinal matches, or even a 3rd and 4th. When you get knocked out, you don't make it to the finals, and even the lower ones, like you have to fight all the way through the prelims. And I think the champions and challengers thing kind of did that. There was excitement around that, years back when we did that. But when you're talking about being able to go somewhere and compete for a grand prize, like I think that's ultimately what a lot of us, are talking about, because that's marketable. That's a cool thing to be able to say, like, we're fighting this season to go and compete for, 50 grand, and that's actually saying something, right?
Right. Right. I'm embarrassed every time I see the $12,000.
Yeah,
prize.
I know. I don't want to post those.
Yeah, we don't even want to post them. I'd rather just lump them all into one, right? And make it a $50,000 prize.
And then also we talk about, sometimes we talk about like making it appealing for the moms. Mom wants to send her kids. She's like, he's going to possibly, the squad could win this amount or that amount. And it makes the moms want to, send the kids too.
Right, for sure. Kind of legitimizes that whole thing. Like the Dynasty guys literally say, the original Dynasty guys say that that winning the cars was a big thing for their career as far as keeping them involved in the sport.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. I mean, nobody watched poker until, somebody was winning $1 million playing poker, right?
Right.
It glamorizes it. It shows that it is legitimate. Even with gaming, nobody took gamers serious. Parents tell their kids, you're wasting your life sitting behind a computer all day playing video games. And now these kids are making millions of dollars, and esports is one of the biggest industries out there. It's massive.
Sure.
It's huge.
For sure. It's ridiculous.
So it's finding a way to be able to logistically scale up to that, and I think, that's just always my concern, is hoping that is in the conversation consistently of how, we can continue to do that. And I know it is for you. We've had so many conversations about it.
That's I get most frustrated. So I don't mind when people take shots at me because I come up with a bad idea, or we drop the ball on something like the Philly grass, right? Those are legitimate things that we should do better at. We need to do that. And you need to keep that dialogue open. What gets me mad and what frustrates, me for my staff is when people are like, we don't care, or we're not trying to do stuff. I mean, people that know me, they get annoyed because I'm constantly coming up to them and pitching ideas. You know what I mean? And trying to, break outside of this mold. And that's, once again, why I like the one-off events, because they can try stuff that we cannot without completely, unforeseen consequences.
Yeah. And of course, you and all the owners are working tirelessly to make the NXL be everything that it can be. It's not like we want this thing to not do well.
Yeah.
It helps your business if it does well. It goes back to what we were saying. It helps your pockets.
They need to do well so they can get their money back out of this thing. Exactly. But they also are like, we need a league for the players by the players, and I'm like, so what am I? You know what I mean? Like, I do play paintball. I've been playing my whole life.
You're a pro player.
Bart, Randy, Dave, and Bart all run teams. It just happens they tend to be richer than your average bear. So
for everybody out there that doesn't know. Like,
a
lot of people probably don't know that you were a pro, you ran around and played these events. You were a pro player as well, Yeah,
no, I got stuck in this job for sure.
Well, God bless you, man. And
Thank you.
We're rooting for you. We want nothing but the best for everything with paintball.
We need the NXL to do well. We need the NXL to succeed and to make the divisional players happy as well, because that's the foundation of it. And, something that I've always considered is that sometimes what's best for just maybe the professional division, because for myself, I always look at it's all about the show for me. As far as like pushing professional paintball forward, the pro side of it, it's about views, right? How can we get the most people to watch the webcast and maybe to show up in person, but really it's about the webcast. And sometimes that doesn't align with what's best for running a league that has a ton of divisional teams to consider and make sure you can accommodate. And so, there's a balance there. There's definitely a balance. Have you thought of doing other one-off, maybe pro events, something that could be a pay-per-view kind of thing where, maybe it's even just a match. Like maybe you invite 4 teams or something and you have some sort of cool grand prize that is based solely on the pay-per-view numbers. You like split a purse.
That's a brilliant idea. So yeah, we have tossed around some stuff like that. We may next year have a 20-team event that's just the pros, right? That's one of the things that we're always looking at. We actually, Ocean City, Maryland, is kind of like a Huntington Beach, but more like not quite as cool. And they offered to have us be at one of their big festivals, but we only have space for like one field. So it would be a good exhibition to kind of try and do some stuff there. So yeah, we're exploring all those options. It's just,
I love the East Coast. I love Maryland. All that area is some of the most beautiful area in the country. I think that would be
my home state there. That's the place to be.
That would be tremendous.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay. Yeah, I think that would be great. Because again, it does all tie back, right? Again, in my mind, if professional paintball is glorified and it's something that a lot of people aspire to be and want to do because they see that players are competing and making a decent amount of money from winning an event, or, the webcast is glorifying and turning them into superheroes, that's going to create more divisional players, and creating more divisional players helps the NXL, of course. It helps the entire sport. So, it's good to hear, that's something you guys are considering as well. I look forward to hearing more about it.
We're trying some stuff, and we're hard-headed sometimes. It takes us a little while to make some changes, like the free spectators on one side, we inherited the legacy of the way paintball tournaments are run, right? So we didn't start running events, or I didn't start running an event this caliber until 2015. People a lot of times mistake it and think that I've been running them since the dawn of time. And I was president for a while and all that stuff, but we inherited this X-Ball format and the way that we kind of do stuff with the 5 big events and all that kind of stuff. We've been doing that since 1990, since 89, 85, something like that.
Wow.
So
you said get rid of X-Ball. That was how this whole thing started when we were talking about increasing prize packages. You said to get rid of X-Ball.
Yes, if you went to straight 5-man, or you went to like a race to 2, something smaller like that, and you played more games and they were fast, I could definitely increase your prize package. If you want the exact math on that, I'll give it to you.
Is that because you can?
What's that?
Is that because you could use less fields, so less cost?
You could use less fields, less fields. So it's a lot of pluses, right? Reffing would go up, the refereeing would be improving because now I'd only have 4 fields instead of 9. The prize package would go up. You would also have some more diversity in who wins, because the shorter the game time, the more chance you have of an underdog winning.
Right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of pluses to it. But I lobbied so hard for this that finally some of the pro guys were just like, just do it. If you think it's the right thing, just do it. And I got scared because then I was like, I might screw this whole thing.
That's a big change. That would be a big change right there. Yeah.
So then I stopped talking about it because they made me stop. So And maybe that's something we try, right? So that's why 7-man was pretty good, because it was a single flag game. You don't have all these clocks. It's a lot easier for the consumer to understand. You talk about some confusing stuff. Split deck is really confusing.
Split deck is honestly, it's the worst.
The worst thing ever.
Yeah, it truly is. I'm sorry.
Nope, I agree. It's the only way that we can afford to run it, though.
Yeah.
Just think about it. If we got rid of split deck, the World Cup would be 22 fields.
So let me clarify. I don't think it's terrible to play. I enjoy playing it. There's no issue playing it. For me, it's about viewing it. So for Go Sports and the pro field, that's the only area that I have an issue with it. There's no issue playing.
Why Go Sports, and I'll probably get a shot back from Maddie and them, but so why do they just not broadcast just one match at a time? Right? So you got Dynasty plays Impact. They show that match. And then you got Houston Heat playing Trade My Gun, and they leave that match out. And so when you guys are hitting and the other team's playing, they could just talk about, what a great move,
interesting idea.
Coach made into the snake, which not that he does that often. But you know what I'm saying? And then come right back like that game never happened.
My initial thought is that there would be inconsistencies in the break time, which would be a little strange. And maybe you hear the background sound,
right? They have to.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That's not a bad idea, Tom. I actually don't dislike that at all. Because, look, in all sports, if you're if you're a team that gets a lot of views, you get the primetime show. You get Monday Night Football. You get the good schedule. And there's no reason our sport shouldn't be, should be any different. There's no reason our sport should be any different, right? We want people to be excited to watch these games. That's a good idea. I'm going to bring that up to him. Have you brought that up to him?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it just recently. Yeah, because they're they're trying to find a way to
of course
to get rid of it.
Because you could do so much with 2 minutes in between, or whatever it is.
And there's no storyline, right? They're not giving any storyline for what's going on. So you can't make heroes in the amount of time they got to make heroes.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So
Tommy,
they need to.
You broke that wide open. That's a huge idea right there. I think that is very promising.
And
I think,
obviously, I'm going to piss someone off, right? Because the people
of
that
course,
aren't the showcase match, but just win more. You know what I mean?
Win more.
I'm not here to sugarcoat everything. Just win more. You know what I mean?
Win more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'll
More
still
guys in the box than you have in your box.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Someone's always going to be
like
mad about something, it's kind of the way it is.
Yep.
But I think that it's a really good idea, man. I really think that's a great idea.
And that just is very telling of how often you're thinking about how we can, grow the sport.
Yeah.
That's often a term that is loosely used in paintball, but truly you guys are at the forefront of it. And that's a perfect example. I mean, you guys don't necessarily profit from Go Sports as a separate entity, but to make the professional league a little bit better and the show better. You're thinking of ideas.
So I watched the Go Sports stuff, me and my operations guys, just to see how our presentation is. And if you look from the beginning to the end, we changed stuff like, we now have double-sided scrims so that you're never seeing the backside of the scrim on the pro field. Different stuff, right? So now the VIP is, because of what you're seeing, where it looks bad when you have the bleachers full. Now we've cut the bleachers in half, and now the VIP is bigger, so that always looks full. Go ahead, Marcel.
I got a big request. I don't know how difficult this is. I don't know the cost, but the bleachers that used to be raised up, there was like a 5 foot. They were at all the NPPL events. It just made the event seem so much more grand. Is that much more expensive, or do we choose just not to have those? Because
it's a death trap. So if you ever watch those old videos, you'll see that the top 5 are very rarely got anybody sitting on them. It's because they get hit by paintballs. So you go too high. So I can't increase the net highs drastically, right? We're at 20 foot. So our nets and our poles are 23 foot now, right? We got a 3 foot leeway there, right? And so if you start to go too high, the paintballs start to hit the thing. And you can even see like the corners. Watch how people sit. The corners will be empty because the center doesn't get shot as much as the ends.
How do we ever become a stadium then?
We would put a roof on it.
Yeah.
A roof on the net.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And why can't you go higher with the poles? Just like a weather issue, if it's windy.
The higher you go, the more wind you catch. Mm-hmm. So, and it's exponential, right? So the higher up, the bigger the sail. The more likely we are to bend the poles.
Man, that would make filming really difficult if there's a net above the top, because they do the aerial view.
Correct.
And
so we even have. So if you look, we have a 10-foot weave at the bottom, a tight weave at the bottom to stop direct paintball hits, and then from there and above, we have a light weave to stop catching the wind, right? So if we went further, we would still have a light weave, but it just drastically increases the amount of stuff. And we haven't really lost fields in a while, so it's scary when the wind comes whipping through there.
Oh yeah, it is. There's been some tournaments where the wind just devastates events.
CSP Galveston, we lost every net we had.
Yeah, that was wild.
Right? Yeah.
Tom, I know you got to go here pretty soon. We've gone well into the distance a little bit. Yeah, it's been just awesome. Just another couple questions. I know that we kind of touched on it, but reffing, reffing is definitely a conversation that some divisional players have brought to our attention. Damien also addressed it. How can we make the reffing better? It's such a hard job for these refs. It's such a difficult and thankless thing. What's going on there? Is there something that needs to be addressed? Is there anything we could do better?
So there's 2 things. One, you guys can be nicer to them, right?
Hey, I do my part.
Could be a little more respectful, because you can just imagine what that's like, right? You just you're out there, you try to do the right thing, and you're just getting MF the whole goddamn time.
It's a brutal job. Brutal.
People always talk about it. We actually pay pretty good.
Yeah.
And so they actually make a good day wage. I mean, obviously with the way things are now, you might make more on unemployment, but we try and pay them well. We try and treat them good. We don't always do an excellent job at that, but we are trying. A lot of it is clinics. So in 2000, if you look 2018, 19, we ran almost no ref clinics. And then this year we've already run, I'm going to say 6, maybe 8. And so we're revamping our whole training process. In the pre-show, we talked a little bit about like different things that we can do about, like you mentioned, like making them more famous and stuff. So we are trying to do some vanity stuff where the more events you ref, you get like different ranks and stuff like that to kind of make it good. But the real problem and and we moved away from our previous ref manager guy because I wanted advanced level ref clinics, right? So it's one thing to say, hey, when a guy's hit, you need to go away, right? But at some point in time, I need them to take that next level and learn like the intricacies of the rules, the time of a call, right? Because I mean, it does change everything. Like if it's the last point and there's 13 seconds left and you throw a major, you just determine the entire tournament as opposed to day 1.1, right? And I'm not saying that you should make those decisions based on that, but it does help to have that paintball knowledge. And we need to do a better job of getting that trickled down and making sure the referees that we do get that are good that we keep.
Yeah, I will say that the pro field has been phenomenal. The reffing on the pro side has been top notch. And, you know, we hear things all the time from like divisional and that kind of stuff. And things happen, like refs will probably call in sick or just not show up at all. I'm sure that happens sometimes. And, you know.
So, yeah. I mean, and it all happens, right? But in the end, it all falls to us, right? We just need to make sure that we have more referees and that we're training them up and getting them better, right? And we just brought in a new guy, Dan Perez. He's been around for a long time, but he is a ref trainer guy. That's what he does. And we've been trying to train them up and make sure they stay. So what happens is, I spent a lot of time with the referees, and I went and ref the MSXL during the COVID shutdown just to kind of see what it's like to be a ref and kind of see what they go through and talk to those guys on that basis to kind of go. And I didn't really get the true reffing experience. Some guy just went by and he MF'd everybody but me and then skipped me and started cussing the rest of the referees. And I asked him, why'd you skip me? He's like, I was told by my coach specifically not to give you any grief. I was like, all right, fair enough. And so it was neat hanging out with those guys and hear those guys talk. We went to dinner afterwards. And, you know, they got their own little war stories. But their paintball knowledge from the hardcore ref guys is pretty high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They know what's going on and they know how it's going. We just have to get more people to have a good time and have them come and do it. I mean,
yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I've coached a lot of divisional teams in different events and here, you know, oh, we lost because of the refs or this because of the ref. And I've been there while these situations have gone down. I say, look, that wasn't biased like you think it was. That wasn't this. That wasn't that. One, it's really hard to ref, and often paintball players are unrealistic with whether or not they got a bad call that ruined their event, and they're not honest with themselves of, you know, whether their teammate was playing the gray area or they're not honest with their teammates. You know, they go back in and say, I didn't have a hit. This was rub, you know, whatever it might be. So I'm never really interested in that conversation because you don't get anywhere with it, right? You just don't get anywhere. Right. Of course, you know, the refs need to be educated on, you know, their zones and understand, you know, what to look for and all that kind of stuff. But I think what is a concern to people, like you mentioned, is the amount of refs that are on the field. You know, people have mentioned that there are, you know, 4 or 5 on the field. So what responsibility does the NXL have to like keep extra refs on retainer? Would that put you guys in a bad situation to have like a plethora of refs, or is it just that they're not available?
Yeah, no, I mean, we would bring them if they were available, right? It's never a point in time where we're trying not to bring them. We don't really turn away a lot of referees, as people like to point out, right? Basically, anybody can come ref. And it gets worse the bigger event gets, right? Like, of
course,
you know what I mean? I'm not turning anybody away at World Cup, right? So it really comes down to training the people that want to do the job and not trying to draft people in. But it also comes back, and I'll give a shot back at Damien, right? So here Damien goes on the show and he talks about, like, I support one-off events and I do all this stuff, right? Has he gone to ref any? His years of experience at paintball, being one of the best players on the planet, maybe, you know, maybe not. But you know what I mean? Like, why not? Why didn't he go down to Meter's event and ref? It's only, 4 hours from him? Would that have been such a, you know, if you want to support independent events, you got to support it. You can't just talk about it. You know what I mean? So when I stopped being president of the NPPL back in the day, Chuck asked me to be the ultimate for the NPPL. And so I became the ultimate. And I was the ultimate at the NPPL until I left to go work for the PSP. So you have this brain drain that everybody that leaves the sport, we spend our entire paintball career bitching about the reffing. And then as soon as we get an opportunity to give back, we're out of the sport. And it's humbling, right? It sucks to go from being a pro player to not being good enough to play and then being the ref, right? And then having everybody think, well, you know, whatever. Tom's not good enough, so now he's going to go back and try and be a ref or whatever. But I think it's what we got to do to give back. And no one's better at reffing than former paintball people.
True. And the training is awesome. Like even just on my feed, I see the posts all the time now that you guys are doing the ref training, which is really cool. And we talked about it a little bit off the air, but like having the
glorifying these refs.
Glorify the refs and like the pro refs. And obviously we got to have Jason keep them in line and make sure nobody gets out of hand and starts changing the game out there because they want some shine as a ref or anything. But
I think it would mitigate that, to be completely honest. I think refs would be, because you're held more accountable. You people now know who you are. So if you make a bad decision, you know, and you might get put down to the semi-pro. Real quick, let's catch the listeners up, because we briefly talked about it on the Damien show, but the three of us here talked about it before the show. The concept, no, you heard this, Tom, is about, you know, giving the refs, you know, a platform essentially,
just like on Go Sports,
and having
refs corner or something. So I do have an idea. I'll throw it out here now.
Okay.
I'll get in trouble for this one. But so I want to do a thing where every field, every day, the players got to pick a referee that they thought was the best referee of the day, right?
Oh wow.
So every time you ref, you basically get a coin. We'll steal Alex and Ollie's little idea, right? So every time you ref, you get a coin. Every time you get nominated as the best ref of the day, you get 2 more coins. So at the end of the day, you would end up with 3 coins if you got nominated, right? We put all those coins into a bin at World Cup, and we draw it out live on stage there. And the winner of that gets a free trip to Cancun for him and his girlfriend, right? So, and then we go through the different prizes, and maybe, you know, they win a free goat hat from you guys for your little promotional thing, right? But so they're going through a whole thing of trying to be recognized and have a chance of winning something. And the better they do, the better off their chances of making it are. Yeah. So that's kind of one of my ideas. And to be honest with you, I should have implemented this already.
I like it.
I did not. So.
Yeah, I like it too. Again, because to me, I really don't think it's as much about the quality of the refs. It sounds like it's been more of a number issue. You know, having enough on the field. It's a hard job. You need to have enough on the field. And I get it. I mean, I don't know that I would want to be a ref. It's a hard job. It's mostly thankless. You're usually getting yelled at. Even when you do a good job, I mean, it's rare that people recognize you. It's a tough position to be in. You know, it's a really tough spot. But if we did a better job of on the webcast, again, giving them a personality and making the pro field like something for referees to aspire to be. And I think the transition there is a lot like paintball players chase the lifestyle of being a professional paintball player and being able to travel and experience different parts of the world through playing paintball. You could do the same thing with reffing. You know, I have a lot of friends, we talked about this before the show, that they get paid by like the MXL or the Colombian League or the Asian League to come down there and be their head ref, because, you know, the NXL refs are the best refs in the world. That's bottom line. Right. That's why they get paid to go and be head refs in other countries. So if we continue to build that up, it would, you know, if you had a spot in the pro field, you would be able to go make money and travel almost anywhere in the world, you know? And so you're making that a highlighted thing for these referees. Surely there's going to be more young, hungry refs that want to come through and get that spot on the pro field, you know?
Well, I'll make a deal with you. You start working on Go Sports to get them to do the split deck filming only one thing, and I'll start working on trying to make the ref thing to get a thing for them. So.
I think the ref thing will be easier.
We'll see how this works. We'll try something. We'll see what we can do.
I like it. Awesome.
And I'm still working on the petition for the sidearms. So I'm working on getting all those signatures for you, buddy.
You gotta be careful. You're gonna get close to having it, and then people are gonna be mad. When
I know. Right? That's what I've been saying. I'm like, Tyler, like you might actually get it.
And then the petition, they're signing it because they don't think it's gonna happen. And suddenly they end up with a sidearm, and you know, me and you are both gonna be unemployed.
I know. Huh? This is true. Hey, I want to also, before the show, you had some really exciting information about women's paintball. So I would love for you to break that with us. That you're going to be doing something next year, I believe.
Sure. So in Chicago, we're going to have a women's summit. The invites are going out kind of this week. We're going to have a day, the morning Monday afterwards, after Chicago. We're going to invite the women who are currently playing paintball in the NXL to come and have a voice about a pro division that we're going to start next year. We're going to limit it probably to 5 teams, but it's still basically a work in progress. But I want to. So when you go to a paintball park, I'm going to throw out a number that maybe 30 or 40% of the people there that are coming to rent equipment are going to be female. but yet by the time it moves up to our level, it's less than 1%
Yeah.
playing tournament paintball. And it's an intimidating, and I said this before, it's an intimidating sport to get into. And so by trying to have a vehicle where women who are interested in playing can find an avenue and go play, I think it can be really good.
I agree,
So,
man.
yeah. And part of my things, I was talking to a guy from the PGA, and they said they saw real growth when they added women into the golf mix, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying women can't play with men, because I think some of them can, and I think given enough time, they all will be. But it'd be nice to have a place where they can play and find out who the best women's teams are. So
yeah,
I love it.
So that's one of our initiatives. So
love that, man. That's awesome. And I think
it's actually, so I say I always call around and pitch ideas. And so this is the only idea I haven't gotten all positive feedback from.
Yeah.
So everybody seems pretty excited about it. So
absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. And we can't wait to head out to Chicago and start playing out there. It's going to be a great event. And
should be a good event. Yes, yeah. I'm really excited about Chicago.
We're excited to get out there. Is there any, where are we doing this one at?
Same. It's Gaelic Park.
Okay.
Gaelic Park.
There we go.
So
nice. We've been there. I enjoy that place.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite venues. So
beautiful.
Awesome, man. Well, shoot.
Very nice grass.
There we go.
The grass is amazing in Chicago.
The grass is amazing.
Very excited for that. There's nothing like playing on just pristine grass. It is the best.
It's still better than turf. Do you think it's better than turf?
For sure. When you have good grass, it's the best condition to play on.
What paintball park have you been to that had really good grass to play on?
There's a field I go to. I could never host a big event. Outdoor Adventure in Wisconsin. They have pretty nice grass sometimes of the year. It's obviously just so hard to maintain. You know, if it rains a little bit and people play on it, it's messed up. Easy answer. Arturo's field in Guadalajara. When I went down earlier this year to play the MXL, it is the best conditions I've ever played on in my life. I know that's my teammate. Might sound like like I'm being biased. I promise you it's not. It was unbelievable, Tom. It's like perfect soccer grass. And I didn't get to go to the event after it, but I did watch his little webcast. It wasn't near as good. It was all tore up. They got rain a little bit before. It didn't look great at all. But the event that I was there, it was immaculate. It was unbelievable. Playing on it was like, I could throw my body around all over the place. I had no concerns whatsoever. It was so fun to move around on. It made me just wish and pray and hope that one day that could be all we're playing on.
Yeah, we'll put that question out to your audience there. I wonder how many weekends you can play, or how much time I got to give between an event on a real grass field for it to stay and not get destroyed, right? So if we did end up with a paintball park that was just regular grass, what am I looking at from a maintenance point of view?
Certainly, yeah.
So we're going to get lucky in Philly because we think the soccer complex is going to end up trying to maintain that for us. But if I try and duplicate this, what am I looking at as far as my grass recovery? So
yeah, it all comes into play there. Absolutely. Well, Tommy, we appreciate your time so much, man, and we are so grateful for everything that you guys do in the league, and we can't wait to get out to the NXL and keep having fun playing these events.
Good deal. All right,
100%, Tom.
I'm no longer rooting for you. Rooting for Marcelo.
I know.
My guy, I love that.
We'll
Tom, we got to have you a regular on the show. We would love that to come and break news to the people and get stuff out there and continue to have these conversations.
I like that. I felt like we were just talking paintball shop, right? So
yeah.
Maybe some of my comments will come back to bite me, but I really just like talking paintball shop, right? So
sure.
That's it. And that's what this is all about.
Name names when I call people out, but
No, you're a huge part of the fabric of our sport, Tom, and everything you do and continue to do, man. We're appreciative. So, in any way that we can help, we're always here. You always have a seat here, and we'll continue to have these conversations and implement some nice stuff. I got some homework. We're going to try to get this reffing thing and the split deck situation going, so we'll be on that.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. All right, well, I appreciate it, guys.
Have a great night, bud.
All right, you too. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom.
Peace.
All right, PTG fam, thank you guys so much for listening to that episode. I thought it was an amazing conversation with Tom, really honest, really open. Hopefully we asked all the tough questions that you guys were interested in. And we look forward to having him back on here pretty soon. Some great ideas that we have to put into play, put into action. If you guys would like, you could head over to ptgpaintball.com and become a supporter of the show. Get access to our PTG Discord. It's amazing. The community we're building in there is fantastic. Hope to see you in there. All right, everybody. Until next time. Peace.